Hey everybody, it's Rory from A&S Gear, and we're going to look at another tank from Empire today. This is an Ultra F5 90 cubic inch. This is a big bottle right here. So this, I would recommend putting in some sort of remote line setup, putting it on your back, putting it into a backpack, vest setup, something like that, where this is not strapped to your gun. This would, even though this is an Ultra bottle and it's the lightweight version, it's a big bottle. So having this on your gun, that's a lot of room right there. So these are more apt setup-wise for harnesses and vests and packs and things like that. Now you can do it any way you want. If you're a big dude and don't care about carrying around a big tank like this, put it on your gun. It's okay. For me, I'm not a big guy. So this, I wouldn't carry this around. I'd put it in a pack or something. But you're gonna get crazy shots out of this thing. 90 cubic inches, it's gonna shoot for days, really on any gun that you put it on. So if you like to shoot a lot of paint and don't like to fill your bottle up all the time, get one of these. So 90 cubic inch, Ultra F5 bottle, so the lightweight version. Comes with their standard regulator, it's rebuildable, it's got all those features in it. Let's weigh it up, kind of see where we stand. I have to look at my monitor. I think that says 2.9, 2 pounds and 9 ounces. Yeah, 2 pounds and 9 ounces, so just over 2.5 pounds. So for that size bottle, that's pretty light. Regulator up at the top. It is rebuildable. Let's pull it apart real quick. I'm not gonna do a crazy breakdown on it, but you'll just be able to see the inside of it. It's rebuildable and adjustable. So if you do need to change your output pressure, you do have a limited range of what you can do with it. Pull the bonnet off. I've already checked this tank before I've done it, but make sure that your tank is empty. You don't want to be pulling these things off of here and have an air inside the tank. Serious problems can occur. So this one right here doesn't have a shim in it, and all these regs are slightly different because just the tolerances of making them change. But what you will see in your regulator when you pull it apart is this is called your distribution block, this lower section of your regulator. This upper section right here is your piston assembly. So you've got your bonnet right here. It has the threaded section on it that you would screw into the ASA. Your pin spring, piston, and then certain ones, not this particular reg, you would have a reg seat at the bottom right here. They use a reg seat that is recessed into the bottom of their piston. Sometimes you'll see a ball on different regulators or something that is actually separate, but this is part of it. And you have 2 O-rings, one up here and one down here. I believe this is a size 8, 008, and I think this is a 012. Might be a 013. One of those two. Both urethane. So this section right here is your spring. They don't actually use a spring for their piston like this kind of spring right here, a coiled wire spring. They use what's called a Belleville Stack, which are these shims which are rounded. They're concave, convex, depending on how you're looking at it. And when you stack them up back to back and you rotate them each time, it actually creates a spring. Now these springs are very, very accurate. They don't lose their springiness over time like a wound spring will, like this. So they're consistent and they're accurate. They're just a little bit, I don't want to call it a pain to deal with, but they're just a little bit more, you have to pay attention to them. If you pulled all these things off here and then you stack these wrong when you put it back together, your tank might not work. So make sure you know what you're doing if you remove these all off to clean it or whatever. And yeah, when you put them back together, make sure you know how to put them back together. Usually it's just flip-flop back to back. So there's your spring. Now inside of here, sometimes, I don't have one laying around here, just because I thought this one would have it in it, but it doesn't. You'll see a very, very thin, small shim. And it just sits right in here. This one doesn't have it, but if you check the other video for like the 48 cubic inch one, you'll see that it has one in there. They don't all need it. It just really depends on once they manufacture it and they test it, where that reg pressure output is. If it's within their window that they wanted to, they don't need to put a shim in it. If it's a little bit low, they'll put a shim in to bump it up a little bit. So you can get shims, and you can put them in here, and you can change the output pressure of your tank. Now you can't get crazy with it. You know, this output pressure is going to be somewhere between like 750, 800, 850, somewhere around in there, right out of the box. You couldn't throw a bunch of shims in it and make it 1600 psi. It just doesn't work that way. It's not built to do that. But you could lower the pressure down, raise it up by just removing shims and changing things around. So that's something you can always play with and deal with down the road if you need to. There's no real reason that you would ever need to, but some people seem to think that there is a need for a low pressure tank setup. Well, if that's what you think, go for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Putting it back together is very simple. You just put your pin, make sure your spring, your actual spring, goes into the top of the piston. Put your pin in there, and then you're going to put this up through the bonnet. Make sure that the pin actually sticks through the end of the bonnet, like that. Push it all the way in so that it seats up against there, and then we can thread this in. Make sure that it goes all the way down and it butts up against the distribution block. Make sure that these screws stay tight. What will happen is, and this happens on all tanks, is you tighten these screws down and then you forget about them. And months go by and you've played every weekend, and just through use and through vibration, these screws have started to back themselves up a little bit. When you're taking this in and out of your gun over and over and over again, this bonnet will rotate without the block rotating, and these screws, which are just pushed up against that metal block to keep the bonnet from moving, will start to grind into that block. And metal shavings will start to appear. They'll get all in your regulator. They'll cause your regulator to fail. They'll cause your burst discs to blow. They'll cause O-rings to go bad. So be careful and just be aware to keep these screws tight. If you see it start to back itself up where they are not flush against each other, loosen up your screws, tighten it back down, and then let's tighten those screws back up. If you see this thing rotate clear around 180 degrees or something like that, you will want to remove the screws, remove the bonnet, clean any metal shavings, and if it is not damaged beyond use, put it back together. If it is damaged, then you'll want to replace it. So never use a faulty regulator. You don't want to run into any kind of safety issues. So keep those tight, and then you just want to check it every time you play with it. So if you want to shoot a ton of paint and you don't like to go to the fill station all the time, get a 90 cubic inch bottle, because you'll just shoot. They're available through the website. There's a lot of other sizes that they do in these ultra bottles, so check all those out as well. But the 90 cubic inch, it's the biggest one of all of them. Available through the website. Order yours now through ansgear.com.